Okay, these videos have been going a lot longer than I expected. I'm sort of just getting into it here. It's very exciting stuff, at least for me. Hopefully for you too. Uh, anyway, I wanted to leave you with this. This is the sort of thing we'll talk about or we'll pick up on Friday in class. By the way, that's tea boiling. Uh, we were talking about postmodernism, and we'll get into scientific reductionism. But one more thing about postmodernism as a metaphysic. I want to say something about it and leave you with a question that Nietzsche that Nietzsche poses, and I haven't found a good answer for it. I haven't gotten a good answer from anyone I've ever asked this to in the classes when I taught it. Um, and well, postmodernism is a metaphysics, but it's also an ethic and a political ideology. Why? Well, okay. Let's just say this, and here's the framework. I want you to think of this framework whenever I say postmodernism in class. Okay. Now this isn't Nietzsche's postmodernism, but Nietzsche's postmodernism is very close to this. Okay. What is it? Well, it's a critique of reason, right? What's left when you critique reason? Power. Power. Okay. Now, if power is what's left, if power is the fundamental way to understand the world, if everything can be understood in terms of power and power games, or everything is a game with power. So, critique reason, power. If power, then group identity or collective identity comes to the fore, right? And you can see this a little bit now in what's sometimes called identity politics, which is indicative that our metaphysics is in fact postmodern, okay? Because think about it, if you have only power, then there's going to be some people with power and some people without power. Most of the time it's a very few people with power, the 1%, and a lot of people without power. But nevertheless, there are groups, right? And we could just simply say power bifurcates into the strong and the weak, okay? Nietzsche calls this masters and slaves. Marx called it the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, right? And even Marx is a kind of proto-postmodernist, which has led some people to, I think, correctly say postmodernism is very simply Neomarxism, because Marx says the history of the world is the history of class conflict, right? And certain postmodernists say the history of the world is the history of race conflict or gender conflict or class conflict, in fact. But notice what's assumed under that is the idea that power is the way to understand the world, the conflict of groups, conflict between groups over power, right? So you critique reason, what's left? Power. And power bifurcates into groups of strong and weak, right? Nietzsche asks this, right? Nietzsche asks us to ask ourselves this. Why care about the weak? If the world is only understood in terms of power, right? And you have strong and weak, why give a shit about weak people? Why care about the victims? Why care about the oppressed? Why care about the marginalized? Why not care about the strong? If the world is Darwinian and it's all about ruthless will to power, why have a preference for the weak? I was watching a nature documentary a couple days ago. I got Disney Plus and Discovery. I can't remember which one it was on. And we're watching, what is it called? Nature, I think. And we're watching the birds. And David Attenborough, I think that's his name, is talking about, well, notice now, the one mother will only feed her powerful or her strong youngling. And the mother bird lets the other little bird die off because it wasn't strong enough. It was totally terrible. We both turned it off. We thought, whoa, this is a little too much. But there you have it there. Nature is brutal. Nature is very violent, right? Anybody who watched, I like that they're doing, I kind of like that they're doing this on these nature documentaries now. I'm pointing over there, that's where my TV is. That they're showing you the brutality of nature. Nietzsche is saying, why should we think we're exempt from this? And moreover, where did this ideology come from, where we care about weak people? Nietzsche thinks, we only care about weak people or social justice because of 2,000 years of catechesis in Judeo-Christianity. There was no other ethic before that cared about the weak. The mercy ethic didn't exist. Where's compassion in Plato and Aristotle? Where is it in the Iliad? Think about it, right? And so Nietzsche thinks, what's interesting is postmodernism is this critique of reason and this understanding of the world in terms of power, but also social justice, also this preferential option for the weak. And Nietzsche thinks that's ridiculous. Now, Nietzsche's a postmodern with an asterisk by it, because there's Nietzschean postmodernism and there's postmodernism in general, which is social justice postmodernism. The world it's a metaphysics of power, but preference for the weak. And Nietzsche asks us, and this is what I want you to think about, why care about the weak? If the world is only understood in terms of power, why care about the weak? Or you could think of it this way. What Nietzsche is, why care about the weak? Why have compassion for the weak and for the victims if Christian metaphysics is false and the world, there isn't another world? And why, in other words, why is that good? Okay? It's a very interesting question. Okay? So what is postmodernism? It's a critique of reason. Power is left over. There's groups. Group identity becomes paramount, right? And there's a preference for the weak. Now, Nietzsche does not hold this preference for the weak, and we're going to see one of his biggest critiques is against compassion and victims and social justice. It's pretty wild what he says. Okay, I'll leave you with that.